Good evening, boys and girls. It's Friday Junior, and it is another live edition of the Highbury Squad. Big news today. The Magpies taken over by the Saudis. What's happening in English football? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you glad or are you mad? Let's talk about it all right here on the Highbury Squad. Don't hold back. Let's have an honest discussion. Here we go.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Good evening, boys and girls. Welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. Back again is my podcast brother from another mother, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell. Just showing the old magpie in the house. There's 71 there, Kev, 71.
Just a quick one for the squaddies.
Very quick one today.
Yeah.
Also back is our French. This was going to be Le Provence squad tonight, but with all the news, we've switched gears, but he's still here because he's going to represent the PSG side of things. Mr. Kris Carpenter from a Burncamp Wonderland and the Football Hipsters podcast. Welcome back, Kris.
Hello, Sophie. I don't know about defending PSG, by the way, but
Yes.
I'll do my best to discuss them.
I use that word loosely. I must be careful. Also joining is Mr. Magic Mike from the Gooners Pod, representing the United States version of the story in the Kroenkes. Whether or not he defends them or not, we'll see. Hello, Mike. Welcome back.
Hi, Sophie. Hey, Kev. Good to see you guys again. Kris, always good to see you, and our other esteemed panelists. It's a very much a pleasure to meet you for the first time.
And dressed like a total gangster today. Like a page out of a Guy Ritchie movie. He's basking in some happiness, I believe. He's in black and white. He's dressed like a magpie, kind of, sort of. Mr. Warren Barton, welcome back to the show, Warren.
Thank you. Can I'd rather go away from the gangster. I realise James Bond is coming out tomorrow, so that's really what I'm going for, not the gangster.
Okay.
All right.
Not Brooke Bond, actually James Bond.
They were good commercials back in the day.
I'm happy today. I'm happy today.
Sure.
Let's just start with you, Warren. It's a big day for your club. There are a lot of people that have very strong opinions about what's happening in the modern game. But why don't you talk to us from the perspective of being a player, having played for the club, you know, being a fan favourite, a legend. What does this mean to you? What does this mean for Newcastle United?
For me, it means everything. You know, we've had an ownership for 14 years as run it as a business, which I understand. You know, football teams are, soccer teams are businesses, but he's been so disconnected and so disillusioned with the fans, and obviously their respect of the fans, that it's made it a toxic and uncomfortable atmosphere to be at St James's Park, and Kevin will attest to that. St James's Park is arguably one of the best atmospheres in world sport, you know, not just in the Premier League, but in world sport when it's going properly. So to have a consortium that come in and can take this club into another direction, let alone where it could go, the promised land of PSG, we spoke about Manchester City, obviously, and Chelsea, just to be able to compete and have an owner that actually cares about the football stadium, because that's in tatters, the academy, the training ground where the players are, and just the region in general. So it's just a huge relief. I feel so much satisfaction for the fans that have been through so much. And as an ex-player, I want Kevin, again, I keep going to Kev, but Kev will attest, I want these players to feel how I felt when we was the entertainers, to feel what it's like to play for a club that is ambitious, that does want to try and win things. We never won it. We failed, by the way. But we had a go trying to do that. So I'm just delighted for the people in the Northeast and, you know, for the club in general, because it's been a real tough grind. The game the other day against Wolves, for a fan, I felt nothing. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel disappointment. I didn't feel frustration. I just turned it off and went about my life. And I don't want that ever happen to any football club, let alone my football club, Newcastle.
Kev, we're seeing a lot of transition in the league when it comes to ownership. This was definitely a story that started earlier this year and kind of failed to come to fruition. It's been the T's have been crossed, the I's have been dotted. What's your take on this this takeover of Newcastle United?
Well, I think it's been in the offing for quite a few years now. With what we've seen is the Premier League flex their muscles and basically stop Newcastle and Mike Ashley selling the club to the Saudi consortium, who are the new owners now. And it's been put off and put off and put off. And there's maybe some other politics that's been going on in the background. Let's be honest, because there was some certain issues with country to country in the Middle East, but I believe that's been resolved now. And from what was supposed to be put on the back burner until next summer, has all of a sudden escalated so quick. Obviously, whatever's gone on has been sorted out, and they've been allowed to buy the football club. I'm like Warren. I'm really pleased for Newcastle because I know how passionate the fans are. I know they want to be able to compete, but you know what else? I know just how much investment is going to mean for Newcastle as a city, because whoever's been to the ground's in the city centre. It is in the city centre. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the training ground, on the things around the football stadium, etc. And I believe they're going to get that investment now. It's going to make a huge difference for Newcastle as a city. And I think you can argue the point, but I think it's a good thing.
All right, switching over to Mr. Kris Carpenter over there, one of your favourite fans in the house, by the way. Kris giving you shit as per usual is Danny. You're sporting your French shirt there. It's currently Belgium playing France, but you also love PSG. You are a huge connoisseur of Liga. You host a show about it. What's your take, the juxtaposition as a fan, in terms of wanting your team to be successful and wanting your team to win, and at the same time, sometimes we buy brands, we buy things from brands because we believe in them. They have a certain message. Sometimes we don't because of what's behind them. When you look at the Saudi group, they've invested billions of dollars into Boeing, Facebook, Uber, Disney. What's your take on what's happening at Newcastle and in relation to the club that you support, PSG?
Yeah, well, the first thing I will say is I'm no fan of PSG as such. I have to stress that off the bat because people will pick up on that otherwise. What I am a fan of, is, as you know, is French football, and I want French teams abroad to do well. PSG are included in that. I think PSG have got a lot of stick over the years because they're sort of a club who essentially have been kind of created, I guess you would say. Before the takeover, they weren't really a large force. Yeah, they were a team in European football. They were well known, but they weren't the enterprise they are now. And of course, they haven't got a huge long history like a lot of clubs have. The same could be said of Manchester City. Really, at the time of their takeover, they had the history, but they were going nowhere fast until this money come in. I think, from my point of view, it doesn't feel very right, and that's not me as an Arsenal fan talking, and that's not me as a sort of glossing over the fact of PSG's takeover. That's not to discount those two facts. There's just something about it that it sort of says to me that the only way you can compete with teams is to have all the money in the world. And I think in PSG's sort of case, the one thing that you would say in the French league, they took their eye off the ball last year and lost the title because of it, because their big kind of project behind the Qatari ownership and everything that goes with that is the Champions League. And I think you could say the same of Manchester City. It's the Champions League. That's what they want because that's where the money, the sponsorship, everything else goes. If they just win the domestic league in Liga, that's deemed as a failure. If Pochettino wins the domestic league and cup double, that will be deemed as not good enough. They should be winning the Champions League. That's why they've gone out and signed Messi. That's why they have the Neymars and for now the Mbappes. So I do have some slight concerns with what happens with Newcastle now. Does that become just another, a great club? And they are. Let's make no bones about it. The supporters up there are fantastic. Warren can probably speak better than I can, having played in front of them. But it is a fantastic sort of area for football, city for football, and it is a great news for them. And again, what they've been through under Mike Ashley is, it's horrendous. And I chuckled at one Newcastle fan earlier on when he said, "Oh, the first thing we'd like to do is remove all the Sports Direct boards." But it is great for them, and I'm pleased for them. Probably Mike will speak better than I will about the sort of the off the field side of things. And then just to sort of round it back onto PSG again, I just wonder how much from a Newcastle fan base now, PSG's fan base has changed massively since the investment. Now there's a sense of arrogance, there's a sense of entitlement amongst a lot of PSG fans. Not so much the ultras, because they are very much embedded in the culture of the club, but those sort of new fans, what I call fans of players, where you've got like people who support Messi, who support Neymar. They don't really care about the history of PSG or the fact they're away to Lens or the weekend. They just care about the trophies, the Jordan brand, the glitz and the glamour, the social media. And I do worry slightly whether that might happen to Newcastle. But I guess time will tell in terms of the hardcore and the new fans that they will inevitably attract.
Yeah, some great points. Mike, I'll switch gears to you because there are a lot of people in chat, I'm not going to lie, you guys, that have very strong opinions about this. And our podcast is unafraid to put the comments up. So I hope you guys accept everyone's opinion in the spirit of which it has said and is being said. That's the beauty about our show and also football, right? It's what divides us and unite us sometimes in our opinions. Our owner, Stan Kroenke, isn't exactly a shining light. He has his own issues in terms of he's married to a Wharton heir, and what they've done in the past in terms of how they produce product is highly questionable. But Mike, being an American and having an American owner and listening to the panel and seeing what everyone's writing, there might be a difference between the two. But what's your initial take on today's news about Newcastle United?
My first take is, how unexpected is it for me not to have a word in 12 and a half minutes on any podcast? But I certainly, this is the last conversation that I would want to interrupt anybody in. I fell out of love a little bit with football today, a little bit further, I should say. And look, I love this game more than any other game, exponentially, but today was not a great day. Let me first say that I completely understand the jubilation of Newcastle supporters, legends like Warren and ex-players like Kev, who would love to see a once proud club regain its stature. I mean, Newcastle it's not like they went and bought Sutton United and within 4 years Sutton is just going to be, raining chip trophies all over everybody Newcastle is a proud club who has been wonderful in the past, and their fans have been suffering for the last 14 years. That said, there are two issues that are really just causing me grief today. One is just the continued loss of this game competitiveness to just money. I'm not unrealistic. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. I don't know if that's coming out over the air, but I'm hearing like some static. But anyway, I'll just talk through it. For a while, this game has changed from who can put the best coach and the best team on the pitch to who can buy the best players. There have been some exceptions to that, but as an American, I'm used to sports, or was used to sports and day-to-day sports where there are some things put in place to help with competition to avoid that from happening. You can have the richest person in the world buy the Dallas Cowboys or the New York Jets, and there's a limit to what that person can do to earn a Super Bowl because of the way that the rules of revenues and expenses and salary caps and luxury taxes and those sort of things work. Is a little too much parity there. You don't need in football for there to be any given club can win on every given day. It's good to have your your big clubs, your smaller clubs, but to the level that it's at now, you know, you have to have almost state-owned or pseudo-state-owned ownership pouring not hundreds of millions of pounds, but billions of pounds into the competition in order to be a regular contender. And if you don't have that, you know that you're starting off the season shooting for 7th, and soon it'll be 8th, and soon it'll be 10th. So I mean, that's the thing that's been going on for a long time. The other side of it has to do with my views on the ownership, and on, you know, vetting of owners, and whether money and trade is more important than looking after people and the human race. And that, I think, is where I align pretty strongly with what I've seen from the chat so far.
Warren, what's your take on that? Because, you know, you're just excited for the club, the fans. And I think, you know, same thing with Manchester City when the owners came in. You know, you've got historical clubs, of course, who have won perennially. The two most gloriously renowned clubs in England being Manchester United, Liverpool and Arsenal, of course, a very close third to that. Manchester City were kind of, you know, we had Sean Goater on this show, and he was talking about when he was playing in, you know, Division 2, and then all of a sudden you get all this investment and you can build a team and a winning team, but you know, there's still a small club who are doing big things. Newcastle United have always, for me, been the last time you won the league, I believe, was in '55, and the FA Cup. It's been a long time since the team has been known or renowned for winning trophies, but your fans are definitely a group that have been loud and proud. And I think sometimes the expectations for some of these clubs, thinking that they are something, whereas they used to be and they're not. But now we're seeing that transition for City and Newcastle the same. Do you have, I've got to ask you the question because it would be remiss of me not to. Does the moral dilemma come into it for you, or do you just see the way the world is working, and for you, this is an opportunity for your club to just get back on track and maybe go in a new direction when it comes to the football side of things?
No, and Sophie, listen, I know it's a difficult question to answer, and it's probably even difficult to answer, but morally, for me, human rights, women's rights are important as anything in my life, you know, for what I stand for, how I've been brought up as a person through my mum. So whatever business, what seems to be at the moment directed at Newcastle is that it's football and the money that's been invested. I think it should be transparent across the board in any business. Now, the UK do trade with people, the US do it, you know, living in the US. So if we're going to judge anybody, let's judge everybody about what's going on, not just about one consortium that has bought a football club, a soccer club today. So that's my views on that. And, you know, hearing the ownership saying that they're going to invest in the women's team, they're going to invest in the city, they're going to invest in schools, they're going to invest in the community. That's part of being a football club, a soccer club, a franchise in that area. They're not just looking to, right, we're going to spend money and that's all we're going to do on the field. Going back to what Kris said about PSG, and Chelsea did that with their ownership when he come in. They had to invest pretty heavily, pretty quickly to get people to go there to be successful. And because of the TV rights and because of the sponsorship now, and me and Kev was at the beginning when it all started, it was wonderful. You know, we played on muddy field. Then all of a sudden now you're getting these luxury stadiums, the facilities, the players, the Bergkamps that are coming to the country and playing and lifting the profile of the game. So as a sports person, to see the elevation of the English game in the Premier League in America, in particular where I live, to be the number one football channel that they watch is quite remarkable, because when you look at the college, when you look at NFL and the money that's invested in that. So, you know, my take is, Sophie, is that, of course, you know, we want to be clear and transparent of where the money's coming. But to be realistic and compete at the higher level, you do need money. We've had an owner that didn't care. We had an owner that just, as soon as you got your money, you can, fair play result, you can have some money there. I'm taking it out of that. And had no disregard for people, no disregard to the fans, no disregard to the history of the football club, ex-players, ex-managers. He didn't care. And had no reason to care either, because it was all about the money. Now you seem to have a consortium that's coming in that's going to invest heavily into the club and the community. That's where the excitement comes from, because I know the people up there. I know how hard it is for them to work, how hard it is to get to watch a game at the weekend. And looking at sports as I do now, watching the Yankees and the Boston play the other day in the playoff. I mean, they're huge franchises that have more resources than other clubs and other franchises, and where they invest that. Yes, there is certain rules and regulations how you can do it, but they just pay a little bit more extra tax, and then they go through from that avenue. So there are, areas that we have to say, okay, morally, did the Premier League, did the UK, did the government do everything by the book, legally, what's in stand there? Maybe it might need to change going forward. And then obviously as my club, I want them to be successful. And the world and the environment we live in, you do have to have money. You do have to have money to invite Messi to go and play for PSG, to go and get Ronaldo to go back to Manchester United. Arsenal would love to have an owner that would invest money into a club to make them the club that everybody wants them to be. So, it seems to be the way we're living in. But listen, I'm not naive, and I'm not going to sit here and say, I don't care where it's come. Of course, when Chelsea did it, when Man City did it, when PSG, there was questions that need to be answered, but not just about football. It should be about business in general.
Kev, what's your take on if this was happening to Arsenal Football Club today? And Warren, by the way, thanks for sharing that and a really good response, because everyone is culpable, responsible, and accountable in terms of the business world today. Kev and I were talking about this in terms of, there are many brands that have interesting business dealings. But Kev, how would you react if this was the Arsenal today? What would your take be? Oh, we lost you, Kev. We can't hear you. Okay. Kev's going to sort out his sound there. That's the quietest Kev's been.
I would be
that was
delighted.
One of the best answers he's ever done. That was one of the best he's ever said.
I would be
Warren Barton
delighted.
tackle.
Just like Warren, I would be delighted if it was Arsenal, because this is what you need to be able to compete at the very top. All the issues about all the other stuff is politics. Of course it is. And we could look across the board. Who is squeaky clean? People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, etc. We could chop it up, and if we really looked along, we could see certain stuff happening with other teams, franchises, countries, governments. So let's have it right. Aramco, which is Saudi oil company, is the biggest oil company in the world. And that's the main way they earn their money. And they are richer than all of the owners, I think top 10, 20 put together. These guys. So would I be upset? No, I wouldn't. I'd like a game plan. I'd like to know what they wanted to do, everything they wanted to do, etc. But I can't say I wouldn't be excited if it was Arsenal. Sophie, I would be excited.
Mike, you wanted to jump in real quick.
Yeah, I agree that the football has gotten to the point where you have to have money and invest heavily to compete. That is the reality of the situation. And by the way, I'm specifically not addressing my concerns from a human rights standpoint until you unleash that level of. I mean, I wanted to really comment separately on the kind of financial, quote unquote, doping that's happening in football, and then the characteristics of specific ownership, and not blend the two together. So far, I'm just talking about the financial element of it. I agree that that's what you need to compete. So I know it's completely foreign to the concept and to the way that it's always been, but I'm a child of the George Graham generation. I saw, and Kev, I know this is near and dear to you. I saw how that team was built. And it wasn't through spending a tremendous amount of money. It was by scouting and trusting in people like Lee Dixon and Kevin Campbell through the youth system, and Perry Groves from Colchester and all of that. And that's the romance and I know that the game has changed. Believe me, I get it. And I don't dispute that things evolve over time, and that the worldwide interest has poured more money in through the TV contracts. What I'm getting at is, if there were constraints on spending, so that just merely by having 80 times the financial willingness to spend money, doesn't mean that you have 80 times the ability to win. If there's some sort of, not a luxury tax, which is the primary constraint in baseball, but salary caps, wage caps, transfer fee limits. I know that has really, really negative connotations among a lot of football purists, but, and I'm not trying to turn the Premier League or any football league into a parity driven, draft situation where finishing last benefits you and so on and so forth. But I mean, putting something into team building and scouting and picking the right players and being able to coach them rather than simply, and the bad luck of injuries, rather than having Kevin De Bruyne hurt in December and simply going out and buying Erling Haaland in January. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to get Warren's answer first because Warren has to leave in like 5 or 6 minutes. So, Warren, what's your take on what Mike's saying?
No, and listen, it's a valid point. And when you look at when basketball did the big three, then LeBron started getting everybody down, using that. So that started. It will happen. There's a way of having that parity where you're scouting, you're looking around. Arsene Wenger was great at finding Henry, Patrick. He went and got these players that wasn't really out there. Then once everybody started looking, then the level went up again. So you have to try and be ahead of the game. And you're right, the financial fair play is there, which is probably laughable because when you look at PSG and Manchester City, I mean, let's get this right. Pep Guardiola didn't go to Manchester City to develop their academy, to get young players to come through. He went there to get a lot of money and to win. He's not there for the weather and the food. He's there to win with the money, and that's how the game has changed. And we all live in that world. I come through the lower leagues. I had to fight, scrap to where I got to, and when I got there, I was never going to give that up. But the climate and I think the world we live in now is so instant that you can change things. You can buy something, you can change something over, and you have to be ahead of that. So, Mike, I love the romance about trying to do that, but the modern world we live in and how we're doing it. And you'll probably see in American football, like the teams at the end, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they won really because they paid Tom Brady the money that he wasn't getting at New England, and he wins them a Super Bowl. And that's the world we live in at the moment. Is it a shame? Yes, because I think we all want to be fair play. Who's the best coach? Who's going to bring the players in? Like Mo Salah now at Liverpool is sort of holding them to ransom and said, unless you give me what PSG, Man City or Newcastle now can offer, I'm leaving. And you think, hold on a minute, Liverpool got you when you wasn't really a star. You've developed, we've nurtured you. Klopp's got you in a position to be successful. And then you just walk away. I think we have to look at the people that are in the game as well going forward. But, I think the human rights thing, I want to touch on that. It's something it's important, women's rights, etc. We see it with the NWSL last night, what's been going on. We need to speak about, and Kev, we spoke about racism in football. There's not enough black coaches. There's not enough black managers. There's lots of things that we need to get addressed and get out there because people keep hiding behind the fact that, we can't talk about this. Or it doesn't happen. It does. And we need to address it as people and as sport people as well.
So, Warren, before we let you go, I know you have to go. It's a busy day for you today. What is your message for the Newcastle United fans tonight?
I haven't slept a wink, by the way. So, Kevin, I'm not looking too bad, my friend. I've not slept at all. Just for the fans to be proud of what they've gone through and the way that they've conducted themselves. They've still tried to be positive. They still try to have belief in the football club when it's been totally obviously there's been no respect shown. And they've got their club back. They've got their football club back. They've got their city back, and they've got a chance to compete. And that's all we've ever asked for. And, as I said, I can imagine the feeling that they've got out there and the pride. And the consortium have got a plan. They have got ideas. They've spoke about already in the paper about the academy, about investing in the community. So there's a plan. And maybe with this not taking shape in April when it was supposed to, a little bit more time, they've obviously got more of a plan and a focus to go through. But I'm just pleased for the people, pleased for the area, and please God it goes successful and we can compete and have them great times again at St James's Park.
Warren, thank you so much for your time today. We know how busy you are, and we know it's a big day for you.
Cheers, Warren.
Always a pleasure to have you on, and thanks for jumping on at last minute notice. I really appreciate it, mate.
Kev's going to be my scout as well. He's going to be one of my scouts. When me and Les Ferdinand take over, you can help us with development
I'm a
players.
scout, am I? All right. No, thanks a lot. So you're taking me off the Highbury squad to scout for you. All right. You see that, Sophie?
You're going to have to pay us a lot of money. You're minted now. You're minted now.
Whatever it is, you've got it. No,
yeah, let it rain.
Take care, everybody. Cheers, Warren.
Thanks a lot, Warren. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to Warren for making time for us today. Huge day. So, Kris, I wanted to come back to you. If this was Arsenal Football Club today, would you have? How would you feel about it? What would your take be if this was happening to our club today?
Honest answer.
Listen, I haven't even said my piece yet. So yes, okay. Please, always.
All right, I'm going to upset Kev here. I'd feel sick. I'd feel sick to my stomach, because call me old-fashioned, and it sounds weird saying that because I'm only 38. But I'm not really interested in Arsenal winning fake trophies as a fake club. I'm just not. I'm not going to sit here and say that I wouldn't be happy if we scooped every honour under the sun because we had a lot of money. But I don't want that money coming from certain places like it's coming to Newcastle. I just don't. And I know a lot of people say that the Kroenkes are this, and we have to get the Kroenkes out, and we have to immediately accept the first offer that comes from a big multi-millionaire tycoon. And, everyone was I was going to use a bad term there, I'll be polite, was embracing Daniel Ek. And then people started to look into how he's making his money and the amount of money he's taking out of the music industry. And people went, oh, yeah, well, he's still rich and he's better than the Kroenkes, so we want him. How false is that? How just limp is that? I don't want to go all Arsene Wenger here, but I'd rather win nothing for the next 40 years and have a sustainable, honest, decent club than just be sort of polluted in every which way, left, right, and centre. And I do genuinely wonder how many of the Manchester City and the PSG fans, and even going back as far as the Chelsea fans from what I'd call the original days, are still. I'm sure they're still going. I'm sure they're still supporting the club. I'm sure they're still, very much linked to the club and everything it stands for. But isn't it a bit soulless? And we talked about, and Warren touched on it there before he left, about you want success and you want the team to compete. And Pep Guardiola going where the money is. Pep Guardiola hasn't won the European Cup for 8 years now? 9 years? Like, it's all very well having all the money in the world. If you don't buy the right players and the players don't gel, then what's the point in having all this, off the field stuff? What's the point in having all that? And I say, I'm not saying the Kroenkes are the perfect owners. By far, they're clearly not. But people keep banging on, and it does my head in about us. Oh, we've got to spend to compete. We spent 130 million quid this summer. Like, what's that, down the back of the sofa? How much? And it's all right. People saying, oh, Newcastle got all this money now. And you've seen all the memes. Oh, they'll go for Mbappe. They'll go for Haaland. No offence, right? But it's Newcastle. They have to build up to that. They're not just going to be able to go out and sign whoever the hell they want. The reason that the likes of Neymar and Mbappe, Mbappe went to PSG because at Monaco, that was a smaller club. It was a massive move up for him. Neymar went because, let's not make any bones about it, he wanted to be a star in Paris. He wanted to be the big marquee player. He wanted to win a Ballon d'Or. He didn't go to PSG because he likes the streets of Paris. He didn't go to PSG because he likes the kit. He went because he wanted to be his own superstar. He wanted his own brand. And he got that. And he has got that. But will you still think of Neymar as one of the best players in world football in 10 years? I'm not sure you will, because he hasn't really done what he was bought for other than sell off the pitch stuff, sell the merchandise, sell the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And Newcastle just going out and, throwing it up the wall and signing 7 or 8 marquee players, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be successful. And just for me personally, and it's just my personal view, I would much rather have an owner that's, questionable at best, but doesn't have quite as rough and off the field history or, you know, link, if you will. And again, Mike can probably speak better on this than I can. I would just rather that we do it the right way, and try and compete as best we can. And as long as, and I've said it all a long number of years, as long as we're competing, you know, in a league that we can compete in, and if that's just top 4, fair enough. If that's just top 6, fair enough. I'll enjoy my football a lot more, and I'll sleep better at night, knowing that we've done things the right way than just accept the first greasy handshake that we get offered.
Kev, what's your response to Kris?
It's Chris's opinion, Sophie. Everyone's got their opinion, but I'm sure many Gooners wouldn't want to be just wallowing for 40 years. I could tell you that much. That's for sure.
Okay. Sometimes when you're hosting, you're navigating a conversation, and I would love to share something with you as a woman and also as a gay woman. And my partner's cousin is a women's studies professor here in the United States, one of the premier women's studies professors. She was at George Washington University, Stanford, and now Berkeley. She was hired to go to Qatar to discuss women's rights issues ahead of the World Cup and before Qatar were awarded the World Cup. And the things that she saw there and the things that she learned and already knew are horrific. And it's a very difficult conversation to have because there's so many things in our daily lives that are tainted, touched, or brushed by extremism, terrible organizations. Just have to look at Nike and how they produce their products and have done over the years. It's everywhere, right? But then there's stuff that happens in life that is so extreme and so abhorrent and so horrific that it's tough to turn a blind eye. You know, if I was caught kissing my partner in Saudi Arabia, I think you, or Qatar, I think you all know what would happen to someone like me. We're still fighting to be able to live and be who we are in some states where we live in the US, some places even where I live in England. There comes a moment where you love football, you love the beautiful game, you want your team to win, you want to buy the shirts, wear the boots, sing from the terraces. And what I just find difficult is to see someone like David Beckham, who stood up for LGBTQ rights, women's rights, be paid millions and millions to be the face of Qatar. Lewis Hamilton has stood up for Black Lives Matter, yet he races 3 races, soon to be 4 in the Middle East. Why not boycott those races? At some point, these celebrities, sports people, that stand in front of a camera and preach to all of us about social issues, then turn around and make millions and millions from situations like this. Why did the Anthony Joshua fight have to be in Saudi Arabia? Why couldn't it have been at Wembley Stadium? Why is this happening now? Because the Saudis spent $1 billion to free and clear the air to be able to purchase Newcastle United. I understand that money talks. I worked in the entertainment industry, 20th Century Fox, Sony Pictures, MGM. I know where investment money comes from. I'm not foolish. I'm not naive. I get it. But sometimes there's certain things that just touch your soul. And when you're trying to fight for a cause and you're just trying to be who you are in this life, and you have people who think you're disgusting and disgraceful, it's hard to be excited about football today. And I know I just got deep and I got really personal, but you know what? This is our show. This is our platform. And if you disagree, I respect you 100%. I really do. My parents come from a country that is still the only remaining divided capital city in the world. Why don't people want to resolve the Cyprus issue? Because money It's all relevant, and it's all like in interest of money and people who want to navigate things the way they want. And that's how I feel about the situation, to answer your question, Mike.
Soph, I love you, Soph, and I couldn't agree with you more. And again, it is a slippery slope where when you start drawing the line at Newcastle's owners rather than looking at previous owners, rather than looking at the Kroenkes. It was pointed out in the chat that Stan Kroenke tried or did build a television channel on the killing of defenseless animals. No billionaire gets to where they are without doing something that would be offensive or hurtful to somebody. There's a lot of tweets today on, where do you draw the line? Somewhere, better than nowhere, as far as I'm concerned. And everyone has their own personal line. But the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, which owns which is about to own owns now 80% of Newcastle, for the Premier League to come out and say that they have been satisfactorily convinced that there will be no state ownership by Saudi Arabia, that it's an independent public investment fund that happens to be chaired by Mohammed bin Salman, that happens to essentially represent the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia's investment interests outside of the oil industry in trying to diversify their portfolio and not just be an oil state, but be in a lot of other things. It is state run. I mean, you can look at it and put it aside and try to divide a line and call it whatever you want to. It is being run by the same person that has sentenced people to death in violent ways, that has that has participated. I don't care if he sets up and makes the Newcastle women's team better than Barcelona was the other day against Arsenal by a factor of 8. Investing in the women's team in Newcastle and being cruel and murderous to women and insensitive to women's rights in your own country doesn't make you a good person or good entity or someone that you, I guess, should be proud of running something you care about, like a football club. It's for show. Investing money in LGBT communities in Newcastle, that would be great for those people in Newcastle. But doing that in spite of the fact that, and Kris, I'm stealing this from you, but in spite of the fact that they, a company like the WWE will run a show there in a big money grab, which gives Saudi Arabia credibility for having, a Super Bowl of a particular industry, make of professional wrestling what you want, but yet won't allow women to compete because that would be blasphemous to their, to what they believe.
Women only got driver's licenses in Saudi Arabia in 2018.
I mean, and again, I don't want to make this all about Saudis, and I don't want to make it as someone
it's not.
in the chat.
It's about everything in life. Kev, you were saying this. Every part of life is touched by something that we all agree or disagree with.
Of course it is. It really is. And, you could shine the light on whatever you like. Shine it on one thing, there's something on the other side that you could shine it on as well that people accept.
It's a whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. Some will accept it, some won't. It's life. I agree with what you say, Sophie. It is wrong. But on the other hand, what we have to remember is we're in the West. We are not part of that culture. If that's the way you've been brought up and that's the way you live every day of your life, it's norm. It's the norm. What we do isn't the norm. I'm not saying it's right, but that's the way it is.
Well, not saying it's right.
They have invested here, there, and everywhere because they want to. The new ruler wants to change the way people look at them. That's what he wants to do, as far as I'm concerned.
Shouldn't he start at home then? Shouldn't he start with the way he actually treats him?
Well,
the way we look at him. The way we look at him would probably be much more enhanced by him actually doing the right thing than showing.
Mike, as Sophie said, women have just been able to drive their own cars. So they are starting. Now, it's not, I don't know how quick they do their stuff. I don't know how far they're going to go with it, Mike. I've no idea. But like
as far
I
as
say,
it's needed to get to the means to their ends.
but to get people to take them serious, they have to convince the West it's the place that they can go. Hence why the Joshua fight was there. Hence why they've invested into Formula One. That they are diversifying.
It's all window dressing though, bought by the almighty dollar.
Mike, I'm not saying it's not, but what I'm saying is the new ruler who is there wants to change things. Now, it's not going to suit some. It might suit others. But isn't that what life is right now? It is so diverse. It is so crazy. As far as I'm concerned, as I say, you could shine a light on one thing. That's so wrong. Then you move over to Europe, and you could look at a country in Europe and say, look what they've done. How do you get around it?
You try.
No, but who says one thing is worse than the other? Who's the judge?
Well, the judge should be the consumers, and that's really what I'm getting at. And Newcastle will consume this. They will gladly consume.
And it's not guaranteed that they will be successful.
True.
And part of it for me, and I just want to bring Kris back in. We've got 10 more minutes here. Thanks to everyone for joining the show tonight. We're not having a political conversation, but unfortunately, because of the subject, there are things that come into this that touch on that, and it's the reality of the situation and life and the way money works in this world. So. Thank you for listening, and we appreciate that. I want to start with Kris. Do you know the one thing, just to swing it back to football a little bit here too? Newcastle to me seem like one of these teams that think that they are entitled to success because they've got a great atmosphere at St. James's Park or Sports Direct Stadium, or whatever it is they're calling it. You see Manchester City, and I mentioned them earlier, they can have all the money in the world. They're nowhere near as big a club as United, as Chelsea, as Liverpool, as Arsenal. They can't even sell their Champions League matches. I don't think Newcastle United are going to have a problem selling out games. They sell out games playing turd football. That's a big difference.
And they have Willock now.
Yeah, poor Joe. Joe finally gets a move, guys, and he's not going to be in that midfield for too much longer, is he? But Kris, what's your take on, Villa had new investment, Everton had new investment. Someone in chat was saying, I think Alex, clubs with a rich history. Newcastle's history, you really have to look into the history books to find it. Do you think there's an arrogance to them that existed before that's going to be intolerable now as an opposing fan?
I don't think there's a particular arrogance in Newcastle fans that I've come across, and I can only speak for the. I mean, I know three from memory, 3 Newcastle fans, 2 quite well, and 1 I've had a chat with in the past. The fans will become intolerable now. Yes, 100%. There will be. I mean, I've already seen videos of Newcastle fans dancing outside St. James's in full Saudi garb, and it's a bit of fun, but it's a bit cringe. And there will be those fans, and I hate to tar the younger sort of generation with this brush, but it ultimately is going to be a lot of the younger fans who are only going to grow up knowing the new Newcastle, if you will, and they are going to have a sense of entitlement now, and they are going to expect results. A penny for Steve Bruce's thoughts tonight, because I don't think he's going to be around much longer either. But I mean, it's as you said, money doesn't buy you success. It just doesn't. It massively helps, and it gives you a platform to be able to build and potentially garner success, but it doesn't entitle you, and it doesn't guarantee you success. And Newcastle have got a long way to go to be able to be, even on a par with the Manchester Cities, even on a par with the Liverpools or the Man Uniteds or the Chelseas. I think they've got quite a way to even become on a par with the Leicesters of this world, personally. I think there's a long way to go. It's not going to happen instantly just by throwing a load of stars on the pitch. And that is if they go that route. there's a lot of work to do outside the stadium as well, in terms of, I think their training ground is not particularly up to scratch from what a lot of their fans have said. Their academy needs work. There's a huge project there to be before they can be entitled. I do think some of their fans though will be. I do think they are going to be slightly intolerable. But they're a one city club, aren't they? Or a one club city. They are a club right in the middle of the city. It is right on the doorstep of all the working class, etc. And I just kind of wonder what some of the sort of opposition fans, and indeed some of the Newcastle sort of club legends. I don't know if Alan Shearer has spoken on this yet, or what. I'm going to be quite intrigued to see what their views on it are. Are they excited that Ashley's finally gone, or are they more excited about the fact that not only is Ashley gone, but they now have essentially the free reign of the Monopoly board? Because that's kind of how it feels. But to entice big players to play in the Northeast, I mean, I live in a place, in Plymouth. It's very rainy and very wet down here. They were trying to sell the club down here recently to obviously not a country, but to a wealthy investor. Players don't want to play in the Southwest. They just don't. So you're going to have to pay them an awful lot of money to get those high profile, sort of players that are going to go up there and change a whole culture. And the fans, I think. Manchester? Well, there is that argument.
Kev, Manchester seems like a wonderful place to go. It certainly seems to be favored by a lot of people. Is Newcastle that much less desirable?
It's a very cool city, Newcastle, isn't it? I mean, Kev, it's definitely elevated in the last 10 years.
Good night out.
It's a cool city, but there's a lot of work. Trust me on this. There is a lot of work to be done. Because as a footballer, you spend more time at the training ground than you do at the ground. And Newcastle's training ground, oh my God, it is not really Premier League standard. It needs... They need a new facility, because if you're going to attract top players, they want to be going to a top facility. And Newcastle, weirdly enough, cannot compete training ground to training ground with other teams. The infrastructure around the stadium, etc., can't compete. Although it's the city centre, it needs work. There needs to be more done. So, and don't forget, a lot of people speak about Manchester City and Sheikh Mansour, Abu Dhabi. Before they came in, it was Faction Shinawatra who was there, who started to bring in the Robinhos, etc., of these Elano and all these guys. They came in first. It was slow to start with. The build was slow. And then when when Abu Dhabi then made the move, then they started ramping it up. So it's not going to be overnight, and nothing guarantees you anything, because the chemistry has to be right. Yeah.
No, it's going to be interesting to see what happens now with Steve Bruce, guys. Kev, did they sack him right away? I mean, clearly he's not going to be the man for the job. I mean, they're in some trouble this season. Are they going to wait to bring in a new manager until the summer? What if they get relegated?
I don't think that's...
Oh, it'd be glorious.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the fan base have been after Steve Bruce for a long time now.
Well, he's come out and
last
said
season, and with the money invested, the Saudis, their mentality is going to be, I want to win. They want to win. So, there's one manager out there now who hasn't got a club. And
Conte will be there,
with a C. Yeah,
Conte will be there.
He's there. He's prime. You want money? We got it. Build a team.
Bruce has already said, I'd like to show them what I can do. I believe in this. I'm majority, but he's like, I know they're also going to want to bring in their own people.
Of course.
Kev, I just realized something. It's Thursday, and you're not wearing a dicky bow.
No, Mike.
He was earlier.
Mike, I don't stay in the dicky bow all day. If I come home, I do change,
I woke up in this morning.
I had the dicky bow on earlier on, trust me.
Real quick, I wanted to ask Kris, because Kris has got a hard stop and needs to duck out, and we're going to try and keep this to a nice tight hour today. Kris, Saliba's getting crap in the press. Apparently he's had a few bad games in a row, and Guendouzi's sending shots back Arsenal's way in the presser today for your beloved Francais. Qu'est-ce que c'est, mon ami? Qu'est-ce que c'est?
So he bloody well should do. Look, it's the I hate to say, but it's the clickbait, nonsensical English media that go after it. I said before we recorded, young player has slightly rough game shock. Oh wow, because no young player has ever had a bad game before, have they? No. He Saliba in particular, he had a bit of a rough day against Lille. The other day, Jonathan David got a couple of goals and Lille won the game. Marseille have hit the buffers a bit in Liga. They're leggy. There's no doubt about it. The Sampaoli style, we talked about it before. It's very sort of in the mold of the Bielsa. It's all out attack. It's all go go go. It's a high octane style, and sometimes players eventually do start a little bit of burnout. And this international break has come at a good time. But no, I've got no issue with Saliba. I mean, yes, he made a mistake for the opening goal, but he also actually didn't have a bad game, to be fair. It was just that one mistake that didn't work out for him. And as for Matteo Guendouzi, I mean, the better he gets for Marseille, he was captain, by the way, in that particular game at 22 years of age. The longer his form continues, and I'm not saying he's prime Roy Keane or anything like it, but the longer this form continues and the better he gets, the more absolutely brain dead we look for sanctioning a loan deal with a 10 million fee. Because, if he continues to play this way, he would command a much higher fee. And for all those people, and I still get them day in, day out, as soon as Guendouzi says anything in the press, I get loads of people tweet me, "Oh, what do you think now then?" Look, we all know he's a pillock. I think if you asked Matteo Guendouzi his thoughts on himself, he'd say, "Yeah, I'm an absolute you-know-what." But that's the player he is. And everyone knows that when they're signing him. And when he's your player, you don't give a monkeys. It's only when he's somebody else's player that you start going, "Oh, I don't really like him." So, my view is we should have stuck around, or at the very least given ourselves an opportunity to keep him. But I know Kev disagrees, but let's put it this way. He's got far more upsides than a certain Swiss central midfielder does for Arsenal right now. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Isn't it interesting too? Kev's going to, I don't know if you can hear us, Kev, but isn't it interesting real quick? And I know, Kris, just feel free to duck out anytime, mate. Isn't it interesting that the Saliba negative, clickbait headlines start... The story of us saying we're interested in building on him and he's part of the future, the juxtaposition to that is then the reports are like, "Oh, he had a crap game." It's like Arsenal are damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. But Kev, what's your take on what Kris was saying about Guendouzi in particular?
Yeah, I mean, look, Guendouzi, I'm not saying he's not a talented player, but a player who's going to cause problems in the dressing room, you don't need. When you're trying to build something, that's why you got rid of all the other lot. Because you want a harmonious dressing room. You don't want players in the dressing room who are going to cause you problems. So I don't particularly care how good he is. If he's going to cause problems and upset the camaraderie in the dressing room, there's no place for him. None whatsoever. So good luck to him, and I wish him well, but not at Arsenal.
So a player can tell the fans to F off and throw his shirt on the ground, and he gets to stay. But a guy like Guendouzi, who finally shows some balls and stands up to a little mope, acts like a punk, and you can't manage him or teach him you're being a punk, you're young, get your shit together.
He was excommunicated. That alone was not why he was.
No, but the point is, why this is what pisses some Arsenal fans off. Why does Xhaka get to stay having behaved like that on the global stage and humiliated his manager and team?
That should have been the last time he was on the pitch for us.
We didn't want
Every team needs a punk. Every team needs shithousery and a punk. And sometimes, better the punk than the punk you don't.
But not if it's going to upset your dressing room, so.
For the record, I do need to make this very, very clear. Matteo Guendouzi is not a bad influence in a dressing room. It is such a myth, honestly. If you talk to anybody who was around his time at Lorient, or who is indeed around his time at PSG, he's a young player with an attitude, with an arrogance that he believes in his own ability, and that rubs some people up the wrong way. That's very different to somebody having an issue and being a disruptive influence in the dressing room. The biggest problem that he had at Arsenal was he fell into the wrong crowd, the Ozil crowd, if you will, who nurtured that sort of self-belief that he had and who fed him an ego that he probably didn't need. Unai Emery made him the centrepiece of an Arsenal midfield way before he was ready to be that. And that's not a knock on Unai because he got the best out of Guendouzi, I think, and he gave him his opportunity. But he put far too much pressure on a kid who at that stage was not ready to have that pressure. And Guendouzi definitely believed in or bought into his own hype. But the only reason, and this is my opinion, I'm not Mikel Arteta, I don't know, the only reason that he was shipped off was the Dubai incident where he refused to apologise to Mikel Arteta because he was told to apologise to Mikel Arteta by Mikel Arteta. And if I was a young player and I didn't think I'd done anything wrong, I would say, no, I'm not going to apologise. You know, I'll admit I was wrong if I was wrong. If I wasn't wrong, I'm not going to apologise. That's
well, let's have it right here. Who's the manager and who's the player?
And who's the manager who let
now, hold on, Kris.
Willian do
who's
what he
the
wanted?
manager and who's the player?
Yeah, I agree, but you can't have
The
one
manager.
rule for one and one
If
for
the
another.
manager says yes, it's yes. Simple. Now, the fact of the matter is, you say he's not a bad lad, but he gets in with the wrong crowd. He was given an opportunity to come back. Clean slate, didn't want it. That's why he went on loan. So if he thinks he's that good, okay, go somewhere else. Because if you're not willing to do it my way, you've got to go somewhere else. It's that simple.
Do you mean this season coming back coming back pre-season this season?
No, I'm saying he got the opportunity before he went on loan.
Okay. Yeah. And
come in and there's a clean slate, and he didn't want it.
But I don't genuinely believe that, Kev. I don't genuinely believe he was given a clean slate. I think he was given the old look. If you come around to my thinking, I'll give you an opportunity. And I don't think that's the same as being, because Arteta came out in the press and said, everyone starts with a fresh slate. There's no issues. Everybody is. And literally 2 weeks ago, he was gone. 2 weeks later, he was gone. Well, a fresh slate to me is you put him in the squad, you give him the opportunities, and if he doesn't perform, and if he is a disruptive influence, you ship him off in January. That's not, give him 2 weeks training, picture him in the squad photo, and then get rid of him at first opportunity. That's just what the press want to hear, isn't it? I just think and if Arteta doesn't like him, that's absolutely fine.
But I just want to answer that what Cliff said. Getting in with the wrong crowd upsets the dressing room. If you're in with the wrong crowd, it upsets the dressing room. There is not harmony in the dressing room.
But they were all gone.
But no, they weren't. When he was still there when he got
but when he came back,
crowd.
When he came back,
Yeah, but when he came back, he was gone. His head had gone because he'd gone on loan. He'd felt like he'd been pushed out. He never came back with his tail between his legs or an attitude, do you know what, I'm going to show this manager. No, he didn't do that. So why would you keep somebody who doesn't want to be part of what you do?
I think he did. I think he did. I may be wrong, but I think
he didn't because he went.
Yeah, but who chose for him to go? That's the only question I'd ask.
But the manager, look, at the end of the day, you tell me anybody on there, anybody in chat who has a manager, who the manager says, this is what I want you to do, and they say, no, I'm not doing it. How long are you going to survive?
What, for one apology, though?
No, it doesn't matter. Come on, Kris.
I don't know,
Kris.
mate. I don't know. I don't think...
If you're manager of a team, Kris, team, you want harmony, and you don't want to be beefing with a kid.
No, I agree. But how many...
just apologise and we move on. And he wouldn't do it. So fair enough. Okay, you won't do it. See ya.
I think the issue is that some players get treated differently than others. And, Pepe gets scolded for being sent off. Meanwhile, Xhaka gets a pat on the bum and Ceballos gets picked for the next Europa League game. There's definite evidence and a trail of treating some players one way and others another way. And, it's so interesting to see, like, Eric Cantona, Kung Fu Kicks, a Crystal Palace fan, and he's a legend and an icon. Guendouzi grabs Mopé by the throat and he's a villain Send him away. Ostracize him. Of course, they don't have the same
Sophie,
talent, but they're both French.
Nobody had a problem with him grabbing Mope by
I
the
loved
throat.
him doing that. It was
Nobody had a problem with that, by the way.
No, they've circled back on it. They've circled back on it. Made it part of the narrative because he said I earn more than you.
How much more he got paid than they did, and then Dubai, and I love Justin's comment.
Do you know what they say? Do you know what they say to each other on that field? I mean, come on. I mean, Michael Jordan, the biggest shithousery and shit talker on the face of the planet, revered and loved. What were you? Quick.
Michael Jordan and Guendouzi, not exactly on the same level of banter, though, I would say.
I'm giving you an example.
I know.
It's not a good one. I understand, but it's not a good one. One is a superstar. One is a young player, Sophie. He's a young player.
You know what? Young players talk shit on the field all the time.
No, but I'm not talking about the young player talking shit. I'm talking about his attitude off it.
Kieran Tierney gives it on the pitch, and people love it.
But the
Guendouzi, okay. Then manage his personality.
The attitude off it.
Help him manage that. Teach him. Teach him.
So you're trying to teach him, and he won't even toe the line.
Yeah.
How are you going to survive?
I just think that he treats some players differently. That's all. We'll leave it at that.
I think that's probably true. And I also think that the vast majority of us really don't have an idea of the extent or lack of extent that these relationships have been broken or irrecoverable. And we just kind of, on both sides of it, we just make up our own narrative about what did or didn't happen. Some people may think it's just because of the two things that happened in the Brighton game. Other people may assume that there's a lot more behind the scenes that happened. And frankly, we'll never know the truth about it. So, I mean, that's...
How did we do without him last season? We didn't fare any better. This season might be a different story. We shall see. Right. We don't want to... We'll talk about Jack Wilshere another time. What do you want to talk about? The fact that he's training at the club and it's really nice and heartwarming.
It's lovely. It's great.
It's wonderful. We love Jack. I mean, what else is there to say? He's not coming back to play. Let's not make it into something it isn't. We went down that road a couple weeks ago and there was fire. So today we say it's lovely to see Jack in an Arsenal shirt running around. He's a friend of the show. We adore him. And let's hope that, he finds a place to play his football. And if he doesn't, I agree. And we said on that program that he'd be great. If anyone knows how it feels to be in Saka's shoes, it's Jack. There's no doubt about that. So why not have him around? Right. That is it for today. Thank you so much once again to Warren for joining us, to Kris, Mike, Super Kev. Kris, let everyone know where they can find you.
At Casey Runs on Twitter. I am the host of French Football Weekly. I'm a semi-regular guest on a Birdcat Wonderland in rotation. That's my home. But yeah, Instagram, all the usual places. But hit me up anytime and we'll have a chat.
And Mike, let everyone know where they can find you.
As always, at the Gooners Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I'm seeing in the chat a lot of people asking about Wilshere, about more about Guendouzi, about Basuma. If you want to hear us go into detail on all of that, we're doing a pod in less than an hour. So 10 o'clock UK time, come over to the Gooners Podcast, talk about all that stuff in a much less probably respectful way than we have on this show. As is our brand, but
excuse me.
In a much less on our show, much less respectful.
Oh, okay, less. Yeah, I missed the less part. I just missed the less part. Yeah.
No, I go back and rewind it. I said it. No, we're going to be bantering because it's the interlull and that's what we do. But yeah, we'll cover that. And please always go to GoonersVCancer.com and check out the final 3 weeks of the auction. And thank you so much for having me on, guys.
You're welcome. I hand it over to Kev. Also, if you need a fix in between Mike's show, go visit our friend Lee Judges over on his channel right now. Kev, over to you.
Kris, thanks for coming on, Kris. Really appreciate you coming on, mate. And I see France is losing 2-1, aren't they, at the moment? So I'm sure you're going to get. Yeah, you're going to get.
He was TiVoing it. You just spoiled it.
Listen, Magic. Look after yourself, take care, and listen, guys, squaddies, go over and check Mike out at 10 o'clock. Sophie, hostess with the mostest, as always. Great topic. Got a bit fiery as well, and personal, which was lovely to hear. And the squaddies, you always join us, and you're always so good. So, squaddies, I salute you. Have a good evening, and take good care. At
The pirate never salutes. It's hilarious.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.